began on a back road near St. Hollow, a place that doesn't appear on most maps anymore. The rain had just stopped, but the sky stayed heavy. The air smelled like wet bark and something older. Something like iron. I was driving home from a construction job 2 towns over, past midnight, headlights cutting through fog that seemed too thick to be real. Then I saw her, standing by the side of the road, barefoot, her dress soaked and clinging to her skin. At first I thought she was hurt. One arm waving slowly, the other holding something close to her chest. I stopped. She didn't move, didn't even flinch when the truck's engine growled. Her hair hung over her face, black and heavy with rain. I rolled down the window and called out. She didn't answer, just tilted her head a little. And that's when I saw it, another arm, not hidden or disfigured. Not an illusion from the shadows. It was real, pale, long, growing from her right side like it belonged there. And in that third hand, she held what looked like a small wooden doll. I froze. Couldn't even breathe. The engine idled low, a steady rumble under my shaking hands. Then she spoke. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You shouldn't stop here," she said. "Not tonight." The words came out like they'd been waiting years to be spoken. And before I could ask anything, she turned toward the trees, 3 arms moving in perfect rhythm, disappearing into the dark woods. For a long minute, I sat there staring at the spot where she vanished. The rain started again. Soft at first, then harder. I should have driven away. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe fear, made me follow her trail. The road curved sharply and ended at an old bridge, half collapsed. Below it, the river glowed faintly, as if reflecting a light that wasn't there, on the railing. I saw the doll she'd been carrying, wet, carved from dark wood, its face smeared with something that looked like red clay. When I picked it up, I realized it wasn't a doll at all. It was a carving of me, and from the woods came the sound of something moving fast. 3 footsteps, then silence. I drove back toward town, my hands still shaking on the wheel. The doll sat on the seat beside me, dripping river water, its eyes carved too deep, too human. The streets of St. Hollow looked even emptier than before. No lights in the houses, no movement behind the curtains. Just that steady sound of rain sliding off rooftops. The diner was still open. The same flickering sign buzzing like an insect trapped in glass. Inside, the old man was still there. Same seat, same untouched cup of coffee. He looked up when I walked in. His eyes were clouded, pale blue, the kind that had seen too much and remembered too little. "You saw her, didn't you?" he said, not as a question, but like a sentence he'd repeated before. I didn't answer, just placed the carving on the counter. He didn't even glance at it, just sighed and muttered, "She always leaves one behind." "Who is she?" I asked. The old man stared past me toward the window, where the fog pressed thick against the glass. "Depends who's asking," he said. "Some call her a spirit, others a punishment. But she was real once. Too real." He leaned closer, voice low. "They buried her out by the mill, but she never stayed buried." Before I could ask more, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. And in that half-second of darkness, I swear I saw someone standing behind me in the window's reflection. 3 arms, resting still as stone. When I turned, nothing was there. Just the sound of a wet floorboard settling near the door. The old man stood up fast, his chair scraping the tiles. "You should leave before dawn," he said. "Before she finds the rest of you." That last word stuck with me. Rest. I left the diner, rain soaking through my jacket, and drove to the only place that looked alive, a small roadside motel just outside town. The clerk barely looked up when I entered. He slid the key across the counter and whispered, "Room 6. His fingers trembled when they touched mine. Inside the room, everything smelled of damp wood and detergent. The wallpaper peeled in thin, curling sheets. And somewhere inside the walls, water dripped at a slow, steady rhythm. I placed the carving on the table. Its shape looked wrong under the yellow lamp. Like the wood itself was breathing. I turned it over. On the back, carved in small, uneven letters, was a name. Marlowe. That was my last name. I froze. The room felt colder, like the air had been sucked out. Somewhere outside, a woman's voice started humming. Low, steady. A song without words. I stepped to the window. The parking lot was empty, but in the reflection I could see her again, standing behind me, just far enough that her features blurred. 3 arms, moving gently. One reaching toward my shoulder. I turned fast. Nothing there. Just the door, half open, swaying slightly in the wind. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound carried weight. The pipes, the humming, the soft scrape of something against the hallway floor. At some point, I must have dozed off because I woke up to silence. The lamp was off. The doll was gone. And carved into the table in the same uneven letters was a sentence that hadn't been there before. You were supposed to stay in the car. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I stumbled to the window. Fog covered everything, white and thick like smoke. Something moved in it. A shadow, walking slow. 3 arms dragging against the mist like it weighed her down. Then came the knocking. Soft at first. From inside the wall behind the bed, 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. Then a voice whispering through the cracks. Don't turn around. Morning came without light. Just a dull gray sky pressing down on the motel roof. The fog hadn't lifted. It just changed color. Thicker, heavier, like smoke after a fire. I packed my bag fast and left the room without looking back. The words carved into the table kept replaying in my mind. You were supposed to stay in the car. The road to the town center was almost invisible through the mist. No people, no birds. Even the sound of my own tires seemed swallowed by the fog. At the diner, the door hung open. The old man was gone, his cup of coffee cold and untouched. Only one thing sat on the counter now. A folded newspaper, yellowed and fragile. The headline read, "Local woman found dead near the mill, 1979. The name below it froze me in place. Marlowe Evelyn, 35. Underneath a smaller line, survived by her son. My throat tightened. I'd never known my mother's real name. She died when I was little, or so I'd been told. I read the article. They'd found her body half buried near the river, arms twisted in an unnatural position. 3 arms, the report said, one of them freshly severed, the others stitched at the shoulder. No suspects, no funeral records. Just silence after that day. I looked out the window. The fog moved like breath against the glass, slow, deliberate. And in the distance, through the gray, I thought I saw a shape near the mill. I should have left, but I didn't. Something kept pulling me back, like a thread I couldn't cut loose. The mill stood at the far edge of St. Hollow, half collapsed, with wooden beams jutting out like broken ribs. The air smelled of wet bark and iron, and something else, faint but sharp. Blood. Inside, the floor was covered in leaves and ash. Old ropes hung from the ceiling. A rusted saw rested against the wall. And in the corner, beneath a tarp, something moved. I lifted it and found another carving. This one wasn't of a person. It was of the mill itself. Tiny wooden figures lined the edges, small, eyeless shapes, each with a missing limb. The last one, in the center, had 3 arms. Behind it, scratched into the wood, were the same letters again. Marlowe. My head started spinning. The humming began again, soft and low, vibrating through the floorboards. It was the same sound I'd heard by the river. The same rhythm that followed me since that night. I turned toward the doorway and saw her. She stood at the threshold, half covered by fog. Her dress was soaked, clinging to skin the color of candle wax. Her head tilted slightly as if she were listening to something I couldn't hear. And those arms. Two at her sides, one resting gently against her chest, all moving with perfect silent coordination. She didn't walk. She drifted forward, each step soundless, like she belonged to the fog itself. When she spoke, her voice didn't come from her mouth. It came from everywhere at once. Inside my chest, inside the walls. You left me there. I couldn't breathe. Every word hit like ice water. My knees locked, my hands shaking so bad I dropped the carving. The moment it hit the ground, the saw on the wall began to tremble. Metal against metal, vibrating until the noise filled the whole room. She stepped closer. The third arm reached toward me. Not fast, not violent, just inevitable. You were supposed to remember, she said. The words echoed, stretching, repeating, overlapping. Then everything stopped. The sound, the air, even the rain. She was gone. Only the carving remained. And beside it, a small trail of water leading out the door. I followed it outside. It wound down the hill toward the river, through the fog, past the old bridge. And there, half buried in the mud, I saw something glinting, a bracelet, gold, engraved with one word on the inside. Mother. Before I could touch it, a voice whispered right behind my ear. Don't turn around again. I didn't move. I just stood there, frozen in the fog, the bracelet glinting near my boots. The voice was so close it felt like someone's breath on my neck. When I finally turned, there was nothing, only the road behind me, empty, fading into white. But the air had changed. Heavier, like the ground itself was holding its breath. I picked up the bracelet. It was warm. Too warm for the cold air around me. On the inside, beneath the word Mother, there was another engraving. Faint, shallow. A date, 1979. The same year from the article in the diner. Something inside me cracked then. This wasn't a coincidence. It never was. The fog carried sound strangely that morning. Somewhere in the distance I heard a slow knocking. Steady, rhythmic, coming from the woods. I followed it. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe I just couldn't leave anymore. The trees grew denser the deeper I went. Their trunks slick with rain, their branches heavy with silence. Every now and then I'd see movement in the corner of my vision. Something pale slipping between the trees. But whenever I turned my head, it was gone. After what felt like hours, I reached a clearing. In the center stood a small cabin, old, leaning to one side, its roof half collapsed under the weight of moss. Smoke still curled from the chimney, thin and gray. Someone was inside. The door creaked when I pushed it open. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Herbs, old paper, and something like formaldehyde. The walls were covered in drawings, crude sketches pinned with nails, each showing the same woman. Her face, her arms, her eyes, always the same. And on the table, a row of jars filled with murky liquid. Inside each jar floated something that looked almost human. Fingers, a wrist, part of a forearm, each tagged with the same name, E. Marlowe. My stomach twisted. Behind the jars, a journal lay open, the ink smudged with water stains. I turned the pages carefully, reading the handwriting that looked too familiar. The first graft failed. Nerves didn't take. She screamed for hours before the silence came. Second trial, partial success, movement observed. But she won't stay buried. The entries got worse. Drawings of bone, muscle, sewing patterns, like instructions for building something that shouldn't exist. And at the end of the book, one line underlined twice. The third arm remembers what the others forget. I closed the journal. My pulse felt like thunder inside my skull. And then I heard it again, the knocking. Not from outside this time, but from underneath the floor. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. Then 3 more. I crouched, brushed away the dirt, and found a hatch under the table. The metal handle was cold, but when I pulled it open, Warm air rushed up like breath from a living thing. A set of wooden stairs led down into darkness. I hesitated, but the sound kept calling. Steady, patient. I took the first step, then another, then another. The deeper I went, the warmer it got. By the time I reached the bottom, I could hear something moving down there. Slow, wet breathing. My flashlight flickered once, twice, then held. The basement was small, lined with stone, and in the center, surrounded by candles, lay a table covered with sheets. I stepped closer. The air buzzed with flies. The smell was thick, metallic. When I pulled the sheet back, I almost dropped the light. A body, or parts of one, stitched together crudely, like someone trying to make sense of broken pieces. The face was barely formed. But the hands, there were three. The middle one twitched. I stumbled back, hitting the wall. The candles flickered violently. The air seemed to hum like a living wire. And then I heard her voice again, coming from everywhere. From the walls, from the floor, from inside my own chest. You took it from me. The flashlight dimmed. Something moved in the corner. A figure, hunched, crawling along the wall with impossible grace. Three arms reached out, fingertips brushing the stone, leaving streaks of dark liquid behind. You buried me, she whispered. But you can't bury what belongs to you. I ran up the stairs, slamming the hatch shut, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd black out. The knocking didn't stop this time. It followed me up louder, faster, until it felt like the whole cabin was breathing with it. I burst through the door and into the woods, gasping for air. But the fog wasn't white anymore. It was the color of ash. Through it, I could see shapes moving, arms reaching, twisting, crawling across the ground like roots searching for light. One of them brushed my ankle. It was warm, human, and then it vanished back into the earth. I ran without direction, branches cutting my face, lungs burning. I didn't stop until I reached the edge of the river again. And there across the water I saw her, standing perfectly still on the other bank. The same torn dress, the same impossible grace, all three arms hanging at her sides. But now, she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the cabin, and she was smiling. The fog lifted just enough for me to see the flames rising behind me. The cabin was burning. The sound of the knocking had stopped. Only one thing echoed across the river now. Her voice soft and calm like a lullaby. Now you remember. And then she raised her third arm, the one that didn't belong, and pointed straight at me. I didn't move. She kept pointing across the river, that third arm trembling slightly in the cold air. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but my legs wouldn't move. The fire behind me crackled louder, the heat pressing against my back like a living thing. And through the smoke, I thought I saw movement, shapes inside the flames. Three shadows twisting together, separating, merging again like something being remade. She lowered her arm. Then she spoke, her voice soft, careful, almost kind. You remember now, don't you? And that's when it hit me, not like a thought, but like a memory I'd tried to bury. The hospital room, the smell of disinfectant, the sound of rain against the window the night she died, my wife. She'd been pregnant when the car went off the road. They said it was instant, that she never woke up. But that wasn't true. I'd seen her move, right there on the stretcher, her hand reaching out, cold but alive. And I'd promised her I'd fix it, that I wouldn't let her go. The images came in flashes, the cabin, the tools, the journal written in my own hand, the voice whispering in my ear, guiding me. The experiments, the failures, the third arm, not a monster, not a legend, a mistake, mine. The river shimmered like mercury under the rising sun. She stepped closer to the water, her reflection splitting into three as the current pulled at her dress. The skin on her arms looked wrong. Seams, scars, places where flesh didn't quite belong to the same body. You left me there, she said, alone, unfinished. I shook my head, backing away. I tried to save you, I whispered. I tried, she smiled. It wasn't cruel. It was almost grateful, I know, she said. That's why I came back. The fog moved between us like slow smoke. The sound of the fire faded until there was nothing left but the river's low hum. She raised all 3 arms now, palms open, showing the long, thin scars that ran across each wrist. Do you see? She whispered. You gave me these, but you forgot the rest. The ground beneath my feet trembled. The air grew heavy with the same smell from the basement, rot and iron and earth. And then from the woods behind me I heard them. Footsteps, slow dragging, dozens of them. I turned. Through the thinning fog, I saw figures stepping out from between the trees, pale, bent, their bodies marked by stitches. Some had 2 arms, some had none. Some had too many. They stood silently watching me, waiting. When I turned back to the river, she was gone. Only ripples on the surface where she'd been. But the air still carried her voice. Soft, fading, almost loving. You can't unmake what you create. You can only finish it. The first of the figures reached me. Its face was blank, its eyes cloudy and unseeing. Yet somehow, it recognized me. They all did. One of them raised its arm, a woman's arm, slender, familiar. It brushed my cheek gently, and beneath the skin I could feel a pulse. Alive. The others closed in. The sound of their steps blended with the rustling of the trees until I couldn't tell them apart. The river grew louder. The world seemed to tilt, to pulse, to breathe. I backed away until my heels touched the water. The cold spread through me instantly, crawling up my legs, into my chest. The figures stopped, all at once, staring. And from the center of the river she rose again, her silhouette forming from the mist, her hair drifting like smoke around her face. Her 3 arms reached toward me, one human, one stitched, one shadow. You don't have to run anymore, she said. Her voice wasn't outside this time. It was inside my head, inside my bones. The ground gave way beneath me, and I fell into the water. It wasn't cold anymore, it felt warm, familiar. Under the surface, everything was silent. No fire, no fog, no fear, just her. And the heartbeat, not mine, not hers. Something shared. Before I could surface, she appeared in front of me, close enough to touch. Her face was calm now, peaceful. She reached out, all 3 hands this time, and pressed them against my chest. And then she whispered, "Now we're whole again." The light vanished. The water grew still, and somewhere above, the world kept moving, as if nothing had ever happened. When they found the river days later, the cabin was gone. The ground was burned black where it once stood. Only one thing remained in the ash. A bracelet, melted and warped, engraved with a single word. Mother. They said the water never froze there again. Even in winter, and sometimes, if you stand by the river at night, you can still see her reflection standing beside someone who isn't there, watching, waiting.